The 48 megapixel photo mode was introduced in the DJI line with the Mavic Air 2. There has often been a certain amount of controversy about this mode, so in this video we will see how well it works on the Mini 4 Pro, and on which occasions it should be used. The genuine photo resolution of the Mini 4 Pro is 12 megapixels, but the 1/1.3 inches Bayer quad sensor can split each pixel into 4 smaller ones to obtain the 48 megapixel mode. This type of sensor is widely used in lightweight drones and smartphones, where larger sensors cannot be fitted due to weight or space constraints. The idea is to improve the weak point of small sensor, detail and sharpness in friendly light conditions. However, the much smaller pixels can only collect a limited amount of light, so some issues are to be expected in difficult light conditions and in low light. This mode is meant to be used only in specific situations when detail and sharpness are especially important, as an example for large prints or deep crops. Another thing to consider is that the files produced in the 48 megapixel mode are much bigger and require plenty of computer resources, especially when they are inserted into a video timeline. I found it misleading to announce a photo resolution of 48 megapixel for this model, as inexperienced users might expect a better quality compared to the true 20 megapixel of the Air 2S or the Mavic 3. This is very far from the truth. The first version of this mode in the Mavic Air 2 was very disappointing, with horrible artifacts and chromatic noise in the shadows. Over the years this mode has slowly improved, although with previous models some issues remain, especially in the shadows. In many ways it is still a work in progress. In the Mini 4 Pro, the 48 megapixel mode can be selected in the camera tab of the settings, or in the white balance window, while in the Mini 3 Pro it is an option of the photo video menu. The new location means that it can now be directly applied to the automatic exposure bracketing, which is very handy in high dynamic range situations. It can also be applied to vertical videos. I was expecting it to be available with the panorama mode, but it is not the case, although it is possible to shoot 48 megapixel panorama manually, as I will show later on. The only issue in photography with the Mini 3 Pro, at least in the first year, was a relatively weak amount of detail, especially in the elements on the background. With the Mini 4 Pro, detail and sharpness have improved, even though the sensor is the same, due to different software processing. Let's see if the 48 megapixel mode can bring some extra quality. In these first 4 images, the light conditions are quite friendly. I cannot detect any chromatic noise, pixelation or other artifacts in the shadows. The colors are very similar, maybe slightly richer. When zooming deeply, we notice a sensational amount of detail with the 48 megapixel mode. The difference compared to the standard 12 megapixel is very evident, especially in the last 2 photos. This is my impression, others might have different opinions, so let us know what you think in the comment below. As mentioned earlier, the weak point of the 48 megapixel mode has always been in the rendition of the shadows. So let's go with the serious test: high dynamic range and low light situations. For editing all the images in this video I've used Luminar Neo. You can watch my video about it by clicking on the link on the screen. You will find info about Luminar Neo in the description below, together with a discount coupon. In these images taken in the direction of the sun, the rendition of the shadows seems to have improved a lot compared to previous version of this mode. There are no artifacts or chromatic noise, and the amount of information is quite good. Although I find the regular 12 megapixel photos have a slight more action going on the shadows. By merging to HDR 3 images taken in 48 megapixels, things improve even further, with better shadows and more detail. The highlights are well under control and the colors are more pleasant. In most cases, in high dynamic range situations, I would use the regular 12 megapixel photos. But in the case of large prints or deep crops, the 48 megapixel ones merged to HDR can be used with good results. The same applies with night photos. The 48 megapixels has again improved a lot and can certainly be used when large prints or deep crops are needed, but in all other cases, for low light images, I would choose the simple 12 megapixel ones. So far in this video I've only used RAW files, and indeed in previous DJI models I never took JPEG files very seriously. But in the Mini 4 Pro the JPEGs have improved a lot and can produce very usable 48 megapixel images in favorable light conditions. This is good news for users who do not rely on image post-processing. But in more demanding situations like high dynamic range or low light, I would only use RAW file for more information in the shadows and in the highlights. There is also the possibility to manually assemble several 48 megapixel images into a panorama for extreme resolution. I have explained how to do it in my video about panorama mode with the Mini 4 Pro. You can watch it by clicking on the link above. But it is a time-consuming technique, and the regular pano made out of 20 megapixel mode have already plenty of resolution and detail, even for large prints or deep crops. Click on this link to watch my video about photography with the Mini 4 Pro. And don't forget to hit the like button if you find this video interesting. Thank you.